Hello, hello, hello. We are back with more of the most boring Twitch streamer ever. Unapologetically in the worst stream you could possibly be watching right now. Which, consequently, no one is here to watch because, I mean, let's be honest, why would you watch this stream? Alright, there we go. We're going to continue our assignment here, see what questions we can answer based off of what we read. Labor charges that cannot be easily traced to a job are considered indirect labor. Manufacturing overhead. A cost driver is something you want to know the cost of. I guess, essentially. A measure that is used to assign overhead costs to products and services. A factor that causes overhead. No. Oh. A factor that causes overhead costs to occur. A factor that causes. I don't. Cost driver is a factor such as machine hours, beds occupied, computer time, or flight hours that causes overhead costs. I'm confusing cost driver with cost object. That's dumb. Alright, so a cost driver is a factor that causes overhead costs. That's so dumb. Basically, when you have machine hours are being caused when machine hours is happening, it is called an overhead cost. Okay, and the cost driver is it's machine hours is put in the bucket of overhead costs and is called a thing which is a cost driver. Okay, whatever. That's why are we inventing more terms to define what words mean what things? Manufacturing overhead. It contains fixed costs. It is an indirect cost. Many different, is not directly traceable. In a system that uses multiple predetermined overhead rates, overhead is applied at the end of total production. No. I want to say before production begins. In a system that uses multiple predetermined overhead rates. This predetermined overhead rates are determined at the beginning of the year, right? Yes, they are. So that's why I want to say before production begins. There we go. Okay. Oh, thank you. I guess I don't know. All right. as we were. All right, all right, all right. I want to say before production begins, but let's take a look. A cost system with multiple predetermined overhead rates uses more than one overhead rate to apply overhead costs to jobs. For example, a company may choose to use a predetermined overhead rate for each of its production departments, such as a system, while more complex, is more accurate because it reflects differences across departments in terms of how jobs consume overhead costs. For example, in departments that are relatively labor intensive, their overhead costs might be applied to jobs based on a direct. Hmm. I guess it's in each department. The formula for applying overhead to a specific job is times allocation, estimated manufacturing overhead over the amount of allocation. I think it's that. What? I'm wrong. I was gonna say it was. So this is how you get. Yeah, applying overhead to a specific job. The one that I selected, this is how you get your predetermined overhead rate, which isn't what they asked me to do. So, the amount of overhead allocated to a job that used 300 direct labor hours. So 300 direct labor hours is the allocated base, right? So what we need to do is do our total manufacturing overhead, which is we have an estimated manufacturing overhead here. We have manufacturing overhead. Oh, actual. I guess we use actual instead, yeah. Amount of 300 labor hours, estimated direct labor hours, actual labor hours. I am terribly confused. It's not telling me what my allocated to a job. So we have estimated, so I could calculate for direct labor hours is the allocated base, right? That's kind of what we're saying here. So let's do 450 divided by 150. All right, so we got $3 for this. Okay, let's do the other one. So we got $3 and 2.25. So let's say, I don't know. Do we say, what do we say? What do we say? Let's just do 300 times 3. $900. Okay. True or false? One reason to use predetermined is to eliminate the effect of seasonal factors. False. Oh, all right. For example, if actual rates were used, costs may be higher in summer and winter than in spring and fall due to heating and cooling costs. All right, typical cost drivers include Machine hours for sure. Utility costs and machine depreciation. All right, what are computer time and flight hours? And then it wants me to read to questions. Okay, let's do the next one. A multiple predetermined overhead rate system is more accurate than a plant-wide overhead rate system because it multiple is more accurate than plant-wide because it encompasses like everything instead of just your plant. Reflects how different departments use direct materials, I guess. Is easier to apply. Reflects differences in how overhead costs are incurred within departments. I feel like these are the same. Reflects how different departments use direct labor. Ah, let's read about this concept. Differences across departments in terms of how jobs consume overhead costs. Reflects overhead costs. The appeal of using POER is they presumably provide more accurate counting costs. Yes. Higher profitability for the company. They could enhance. I'm going to just say these two. Yeah. The predetermined overhead rate is multiplied by the actual allocation base incurred by a job defined actual overhead. No, that's not accurate. Overhead applied to the job. Yeah. Total cost of the job, though. That's got to be it. No? Overhead applied to the job. Dang it. All right. Murphy Manufacturing estimated total manufacturing overhead for 2021 to be 100,000. So that's our total manufacturing overhead is 100,000 for the year, right? Which is great because this is the number that's usually on top of the equation for POER. All right, and uses direct labor hours as the allocation base. So we know that DL is going to be on the bottom. They estimated that 5,000 hours would be used. Okay. So that's, do the math, 100,000 divided by 5,000 equals $20 per hour. And that's our estimate for overhead. Our predetermined overhead, whatever, the POER. Predetermined overhead per hour, I think. All right. Actual overhead was 1,020. I don't know if this matters, but I'm going to write it down. 120. And actual direct labor hours was 7,500. Let's do that math. So 120 divided by 7,500 equals 16 an hour. The overhead applied to a job completed in 2021 that used 200 direct labor hours was 200 times 20, which is 4,000. All right, the adjustment for underapplied overhead. The adjustment for underapplied overhead, blank net income. What is underapplied? Like, increases cost of goods sold and decreases net operating income. So you guessed under what the overhead, which means that your costs were more than what you said. So anyway. Okay. Why do companies use POER rather than actual? It's really hard to get actual. An actual is not known until the end of the period. That's true. So it's January and you want to guess how much overhead you're gonna it's gonna cost for the year. You're not gonna know. I mean, it's impossible to know. You're not there yet. That's that's the truth. You're just not there yet. All right. Oh, hi. Yeah, that's it. A cost driver, now a cost driver, not a cost object, as we remember, is something you want to know the cost of, the amount of overhead assigned to a job, a measure, a factor that causes overhead costs to occur. When a company uses departmental approach rather than plant-wide approach, the selling price of a product will always be different. Which of the following would not be considered direct labor cost in a service firm that uses job order costing? I think salary of a surgeon. Salary of a manager at a hair salon. Yeah, whatever. You're having me assume something. The formula for applying overhead to a specific job is POER. The adjustment for over-applied overhead increases. Oh, yeah, decreases cost. Yeah, that's right. True. Typical cost drivers include flight hours, computer time, and machine hours. Would not be considered a job and service that uses. The predetermined overhead rate is multiplied by the actual allocation base incurred by a job to find the total cost. Predetermined overhead rate, actual overhead applied to the job. Which of the following be considered direct materials, indirect? It might be direct, indirect. Yeah, really? Whatever. Which of the following would not be considered direct labor cost? I guess one of these things don't look like the other. I don't know. All right, let's try again. All right, done. All right. Now, when we come back at 1 o'clock from lunch, we're going to do exam 1, a rework assignment. Working through some problems that I missed. Got 55% on my exam, but my professor is amazing. And he is going to give us all a chance to earn up to 50% on our assignment. So that's what we'll be doing when we get back from lunch. I'm really happy about that I can do this. After we finish that assignment, which I assume we'll be able to knock out in maybe an hour, we will work on Chapter 3 Smart Book, as we are going to be doing that chapter next. Might read a little more in Chapter 2, I don't know. Kind of over Chapter 2, just, just a lot of info. So, yeah. But then we'll do Chapter 3 Smart Book, and then after that we'll do the homework. I don't know if we'll get to the homework today, but we'll definitely get Chapter 3 done. I'm confident. Exam and Chapter 3 will get done. So, all right, y'all. See you in an hour.